Hello and welcome to another episode of Model with Mel. This week we are hopefully going to be finishing up some of the exterior details and actually starting to create 3D elements on the inside. I thought in the beginning that this series was just going to be me solely bringing a floor plan that Emily, my design partner, she creates the floor plans and then I've been bringing them to life. So what does that mean? I've been building them out in Revit and basically designing and creating exteriors because she doesn't think that far. She really loves just doing the floor plans and I really love doing the exterior. So when I first started the Model with Mel series, I was just focused on creating the exterior. But as I was going through the process of design, I realized that there's a lot of things that I want to also bring to life within this space on the inside. So, past Model with Mel's, we've explored the building in section, and in doing so, I realized places where I want to create a vaulted hallway, and that I want that vaulted hallway to open up to a cathedral ceiling with some skylights, and below is a kitchen with an island, and then that space transitions to a regular flat ceiling, and then it transitions again to a living room, and we want to separate that space with another ceiling transition. So a lot of ceiling things going on that I want to bring to life that are going to change the quality of the space on the interior of the project, and also define different zones within the house without having to put walls up. So I'm going to put you guys on Instagram. I'm going to put you up in the stand and you're going to be able to view my big monitor in a second. We're also live streaming to YouTube. It's a screen recording of my Revit screen and me in the webcam in the corner. So live in both places, and the full screen effect is on YouTube. So if you can't really get gauged what I'm doing when I prep you guys up in the stand, you can always head over to YouTube, like I said. So today we're going to be working on how to model and define spaces on the interior, and it does have a lot to do with the differences in ceilings. So you're going to see the floor plan, you're going to see how it's long, it's open, and how do we separate space if it's just one big open concept. How do you start to define this is the kitchen and it feels like the kitchen, and then this is the living room and it feels like the living room? How do we break up space in that way? So I'm excited. I'm really happy that this series has just naturally been developing into bringing not only just the exterior facade to life, but also just like the quality overall of the space on the inside. So if this is your first time ever showing up to a Model with Mel live session, welcome. We talk about design. We go through all of the steps. I'm narrating out loud what I'm doing. I'm talking about why I'm doing it. I'm basically just, having a conversation with myself and talking out loud. So I usually play a little bit of background music. I gotta get that going. But again, welcome. We're gonna be working on some cool things today, and I'm super excited. I'm gonna flip the camera around. So I was saying before that these projects, these houses, Emily designs the floor plan, and I design the exterior and bring it to life in Revit. And basically, we're going to be taking these finished projects and we're going to be putting them on our website, M&M Designs, and they're going to be stock plans that are available for purchase. So that's really exciting that we're actually doing something secondary with these models and these designs. So this is what we're working with. I have to finish adding the little eaves in the back here. I kind of got to figure out what's happening in this space. to fully understand if these windows are going to work and if I'm going to change the facade back here. But in terms of exterior, it's in a pretty good spot. I don't know if I necessarily would add more elements. I think we're going to have some skylights on this side. I have to find some skylights, so you guys are going to see me go on some websites to download some families, how I find them. It stinks that you can't use the Revit Blocks plugin. I see them all the time going live on Instagram, and it's literally just like they have so many different families. It's like The Sims when you're going shopping, you can buy different stuff. That's literally what it's like, but you can't use it without a plugin, and you can't plug in unless you have the full version of Revit. And I don't have the full version of Revit because it's like $3,000 a year, $3,000 a year. And Revit Lite, I have a suite of Revit Lite and AutoCAD Lite together for a full year is only $580. So just Revit alone, full version's $3,000, and I get 2 AutoCAD and Revit LT for $580 for the year. So I don't really need the full version of Revit. It is for real large firms who are collaborating, all working on a central model. If you don't know what a central model is, there's definitely a post on my page that talks about work sharing and central models and Revit Lite versus the full version of Revit, things to consider when you're making the decision on purchasing whichever program. So I only really need Revit Lite, but that means I can't do plugins, which means I can't do Lumion Live Sync, but that's okay because I can just export my 3D model and import that itself into Lumion. I can't do the Live Sync, but I can still use it. So that's all right. And then I have, like I said, I can't use the Blocks plugin because you can't use plugins in general. So I think they're literally just called Blocks Revit Blocks or something on Instagram. And like I said, it's a plugin that allows you to just go through all the families they have, and they have a pretty impressive category from what I've seen, and I'm jealous that I can't use it without plugging in. So it looks like my Eve over here is in the corner, and I just matched that. So I'm just copying the little roof eave I had drawn on the other side to put over here because I know it's going to be the same. I also know this is going to be the face. So there we go. And now I'm just going to add the trim to that. So I'm just going to take the roof tool, the fascia tool. I'm going to select this line. I'm going to add a segment. And there we go. And then to get this geometry to go away, I'm just going to select the roof. I'm going to select this join geometry tool, and then I'm going to select both roof surfaces. And it joins them together, removing that weird geometry that was intersecting before. I just have to do little ones over here. So we're going to go back to the top plate. I'm just going to, again, copy this eave over and place it in the corner here. I'm actually going to do, so I'm going to do MV, which is move. I'm going to select this corner and I'm going to put it in this corner. And then I'm going to do mirror. I'm going to draw the axis from the middle of this wall. The middle will always snap to a triangle shape. And if you see I'm hovering over it, it says midpoint. So I'm just going to draw that, and it automatically mirrored that on the midpoint for me. Now what I'm going to do is just the same steps I just did, where I go through and I join up these roofs. So pretty much, like I said, the exterior is pretty taken care of for this project at the moment. I'm going to be developing the interior space here and figuring out what to do with the ceiling. I don't know if when I do that, if these windows are going to need to get smaller and just match the windows on the rest of the house. So that's where we're at with the exterior, but I'm so excited to be moving interior because honestly, like, I have not done, let me add to this segment. Kind of was, yeah. See how when I added to the segment, it joined that up nicely. I'm just going to undo that really quick. And when I did this, like, it didn't automatically join. I could, like, pull those together and join them this way. But it was way faster for me to just add a segment. So that's what I'm going to do. And then when I added the segment, this also is dying into this piece of trim below. And when I was doing it before, this piece of trim was kind of sitting in front. So it just makes it fit in the correct spot. So again, I'm going to add the segment instead of starting a new one over here as well, and we're almost done. So this is the 5th model with Mel, and in 5 around 50 minutes to an hour sessions, we've built out this whole facade. We've worked on different materials, different windows, how to build the metal roof pieces, how to make the batten board look realistic, how to add the eaves. The floor plan is drawn out. I've started to work on the second floor plan because we needed it for the roof and such. I'm going to reset, temporarily hide, isolate. That was really just giving me the ability to, again, hide this roof temporarily so I could see these eave roofs below it and then manipulate them cleanly. Reset, temporarily hide, isolate is one of my favorite tools. Again, that's just HH. It allows you to temporarily turn something off, and then you can get into finer details, things that are hidden, and things in that nature. So one thing that I have not done yet is, I don't know what this cutoff level is. I need to go to an elevation and see what my levels are. So this is a 2D elevation view. And currently, I am not seeing this cut off marker. It would be hidden. We have the dormer top plate. So I might just delete this because I don't need this view. This is like a literal roof view, so I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to delete this framing plan view from a different project file. So also this I can delete. Roof framing plan, again, I can delete these. So some of these floor plan views that were created from a past project that I was working on where I duplicated views. So a lot of the times I will create a file from the recent project I've just worked on because it's the most recent template or file. Like, I've added families into it for that project. I've set up views specifically that can be used for other projects. I've edited my notes, and that carries over with me as I start each new project instead of just using the original Revit template that I created a few months ago. That's my Revit template. Do you understand? Like, that is important to me to like keep the file up to date. So every new project, I just do like a save as of the old project I just finished, because then I know that my file is super current, and if there's a note that I decided to add or change, I don't have to remember to go back and do that in every file. Like, I don't have to keep track of that. I just know automatically all of the families, that I might have found in the last project and I liked them, they're already loaded into this project. Any font or dimension styles I change, already loaded into this project. Any line styles I create, already loaded into this project. So I'd worked at firms before where they used Revit templates. I would say probably on larger projects, it would make more sense to only use a template that hasn't been updated with the recent projects, just because those projects, if they're large, could last upwards of 1 to 2 years. Small residential projects like the one that we're working on today and the projects that I prefer to work on in my own practice, they are not going to be going on for that long. The turnaround rate's going to be pretty quickly, and then when you go to your next project, you're going to want this file to be what you use to work off of for your next project. So that's why you can see that there's a few different views that have been created because they were already in the project file when I started, and that was from a previous project. All right, so let's go to this section. I was talking about this earlier when we started to create the dormer and figure out what the dormer angle needed to be, what the window heights and window sizes could be, with still allowing the project to actually be buildable. I discovered that I wanted to create like a faux cathedral ceiling in the kitchen, above the kitchen space. Faux cathedral just means like we're gonna build fake rafters in here to create this cathedral shape, which is essentially the gable shape of a house roof. So, and then I also was like, oh, it'd be awesome to have some skylights here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the first floor plan. I want to generate a top plate plan. So if I go to this view, I can see I have 3 levels set up. I have my first floor, which is 0, my top plate, which is 8.86, and then my dormer top plate, which is 14.6. So I'm going to go to the top plate view, which in section, that's right here. It's where the roof rafter intersects at the corner of that top plate piece of wood. If you don't know the terminology that I'm using for the construction right now, that's okay. When I started out, I had no idea what any of these things meant. People were pointing to them, and I'd be like, what are you pointing out? What's a rafter? I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know where to look. So if you're feeling that same way, you're not alone. I struggled with learning all the terminology and coming to terms with the fact that that wasn't something that was taught in school. Like, I was shocked by it when I learned, like, just how much vocabulary I didn't know. So one of the big things I do now is I teach these construction terms in Revit Foundations as we're building. Like, I want you to know to create a top plate level and how a top plate works, and that this is a rafter and that this is a top plate, and they're both just pieces of wood that come in 2x sizes, 2x6, 2x4, 2x8, 2x10, 2x12. It's not crazy construction, but it is basic construction terminology that I wish I had known, and that also makes it easier to build a correct Revit model, like that's true to how they build it in the field. Because a lot of times when you don't actually know how to put a building together, you can make a really pretty Revit model, but when you cut a section and it doesn't work because you don't actually have, the roof sitting where you need it to be. Like, for instance, when you generate a roof, it puts the bottom point corner where that level is. Like, you'll see the base from the level is -1.5 because I lowered it to hit the top plate. So don't panic if you don't know what I'm talking about with all these construction terminologies. I didn't know either, and that's why I made sure that it was something that I added into the new iteration of Revit Foundations, because I really wanted people to not only understand how to put a building together with a base level of knowledge, but I wanted you to go into Revit knowing how to not just create a model that looks good on the outside, but a model that looks good on the inside, to be fair. Like, that when you cut it, everything is how you would put it together in the real world. And in order to do that, you have to know some of these terminologies. So I am going to create a floor now. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the pick tool, which is that green tool I just selected. And I'm going to pick these outer edges. I'll fix that one after. Oh, actually selected all those for me. So I might not keep this entire floor. Like, I might not need an entire floor here. I may change something over here, but we'll see. Right now, I'm outlining the entire space with the floor, and we're going to create a second floor, finished floor level. And then from there, we're going to have our second floor plan, and I can start putting in that faux rafter ceiling for us in the kitchen. I just wanted to establish a finished floor level for the second floor so I could build off of that view instead of the top plate view, because the finished floor is a little bit higher than the top plate. The finished floor sits on top of the top plate pieces of wood, so therefore it makes sense that it is at a higher elevation, and knowing what that finished floor elevation is important, because you're going to want to create stairs. So if I go to the section, now I have this floor created. Just going to move it. So I didn't have any floor at all. So I have my first floor. I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to paste to the top plate level. So actually what I'm going to do first is I'm going to create a finished second floor. I don't know, what it's going to be yet, but I'm just going to call it top of, all caps, top of second floor. Yes, rename the views. And then I'm just going to type in an even number. Let's just do 9.6, 1 foot up. And from there, I'm then going to copy this floor to my clipboard and select the second floor level. So it ended up being perfect. But that's just because I knew that this piece of wood, this floor, was built with a 2x12, which is 11.25 inches, and it's built with a piece of plywood tongue and groove on top, and that's 3/4 of an inch. So when you add that together, that's 12 inches. So I knew it was going to be that. So you can see I copied the floor plan, and it's pretty close, but it's not 100%. So what I do is I just go to the 3D, I look at where I'm having some issues, I look at it in section, and then I go to the second floor plan, and I'm going to temporarily hide that roof. All right. I'm actually going to leave the roof on so I can see how far I need to move these in. So I'm going to move this in a foot to start off with and see if that's good enough. So I'm just going to select all of these at the same time by holding Control. I'm going to move them 1 foot in. I'm going to pick this one and move it 1 foot in. From this view, it looks like the floor is not cutting through anymore. Good. And then in section, you can see now that it's not hitting. So there's also ways that I adjust this. And I'll just do it now because I think it's valuable to understand like how to get this to look accurate, again, because you're going to want your drawings to read correctly. So you don't want it to jet out in the 3D. You pulled it back so it's not intersecting the wall, but now it doesn't look correct in section. What can we do to fix that? We can go to View. We can go to Cut Profile tool, which for some reason there's no short command to activate Cut Profile, and the only way you'd know about Cut Profile is if you know it exists in this tiny little corner and this tiny little button. Some of the most valuable tools in Revit are in tiny little corners as tiny little icons, and they don't have any short commands associated with them, so you gotta go look for them in the ribbon. I spent a long time not knowing that a lot of important tools existed that could easily do things I was trying to do, but way harder. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know a specific tool existed to make it easier. So I'm going to draw this profile that I want. I'm going to make sure everything is trimmed. Now, I think if the arrow's out, it's going to extend it outwards to create this shape. I was wrong. So the cut profile is still there, but it didn't do what I wanted to do. So yeah, so see how I flipped that in? I don't exactly know, but you can tell the difference. So when it's outside, you can see that this looks the same. So the lines just got darker because I'm switching between thin lines and thin lines. What that means is this is like how it would print. The line thicknesses and thin lines, when you can't really see them as dark, is like super thin lines to make sure that everything is actually overlapping and it's super accurate. I want you guys on Instagram to be able to read the drawing better from far away on the screen, so I work in thicker lines, but I will switch back and forth to make sure in moments of like, I need this to be super accurate, I'll switch to thin lines, but I'm trying to remember for the purpose of streaming on Instagram to work in thick lines. So again, edit the sketch, I'm going to flip this in, and now it's going to create this shape of the floor extending out, which is exactly what I wanted to do. So, and then this flooring is perfectly fine. They probably wouldn't even run the flooring all the way across regardless. So that's what it would look like. That's how you'd fix it. I am actually going to undo what I just did in this section view, because in here I'm going to create the cathedral ceiling, so this floor isn't actually going to be here in this section. But I think it is important to understand how to edit the profile of something to actually show up the way you'd want it to, without having to do a filled region or hide the floor and draw the floor in with detail lines like your girl used to do. Like, what's the point of using Revit if you're basically drawing over stuff in section? I really had a lot of issues getting my sections to look construction drawing worthy. That's the truth of it, because I didn't know a lot of these tools existed to make my life easier. I think that's why it's so important to me, because I went through a lot of struggle that could have easily been avoided if someone had been available, if something available had been available to, you know, receive support one-on-one or just live calls in general to learn a program like this. So my floor selected. I can't see it right now, but it's still selected when I flick views. So I'm going to edit the boundary. I want the cathedral ceiling to happen about here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically create a void, an outline of what will what will be cut out in the floor above. So for instance, we have that, we have that. I know I want to do a vaulted ceiling in here, so I'm also going to remove the flooring in here. And I'm just going to run this straight back. I'm also... Okay, so... Yes, I'm going to have a whole different floor over here, so I can delete all of that. And I can create this. I'm also going to want to move this here. All right, so what this is doing now is creating a floor here. Again, we pulled these in to not intersect with the roof. That's totally just a modeling thing because in section, again, we fixed it over here. It would go all the way to the edge. But again, the boundary is just pulled back because the 3D view, the floor intersects it. In real life, it would look like the section we edited. So I don't want a floor here. And I just want to create two different ceilings in this area. I don't know if I want it to like end at the window. I kind of want it to be maybe, you know, this is 7 by 7. So I think I'm going to align the edge of this island. So this area will be the cathedral. This will be like a drop. And then I want to do something in this area that's different as well. But I also know I want this to be vaulted. So I'm purposely drawing the floor boundary around these spaces because I'm going to add in different ceilings. And we'll explore that momentarily. So let me go to my section because I'm cutting through right before that ceiling. So I'm going to move this section this way. And now it's cutting through my casework. It's cutting through all of these things. My sink is all the way down here for some reason. Let me just move that up. My sink. My sink. All right. Let us create a faux rafter in here. So I'm going to reset that and I'm gonna do it. Let's try doing it out of a ceiling first. I'm pretty sure you can slope a ceiling the same way that you'd slope a rafter roof. But I don't think I've ever sloped a ceiling before. I could probably... Okay, if I just do the ceiling, it's just going to be the ceiling. But if I do it out of like a roof, it'll actually have the rafter piece of wood built into it. So that's what I'm actually going to do. I'm definitely going to use the roof and just build it into it. I'm going to do edit type. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to call it, 8-inch. But instead of being shingle, I'm just going to call it ceiling. I don't need an outer layer of asphalt shingle, so I'm going to delete that. I need the wood layer. Well, I don't actually need the wood layer. So, yeah. I don't know what I'm going to do on the inside upstairs yet, on the second floor. So I'm going to leave the wood sheathing there, but 7.5. This should be 7.25. I don't know why it's not 7.25. It's supposed to be 7.25. My other roof must be off, but that's okay. So then we're going to insert a layer. I'm going to move it down because now it's on the interior. I'm going to change it to finish. And I'm just going to make it 1/2 inch. And that's going to be our ceiling layer. And then I'm going to draw in the ceiling, aka the roof for right now. All right. Let's change it. to this really quick. Shoot, it changed that roof because it had that roof selected. So let me go to my section and let me change this to back to that. Okay. This one needs to be changed to metal. Just kidding. I don't know what it was, but it changed. I don't remember what this was. I don't know why it got changed. Okay, let me just undo this because I don't know what I just did, but I just messed up a whole bunch of stuff. Where are we? Finish sketch. Okay, so we're going back to finishing this sketch. Finish this sketch. We have this roof, which is 8 inches shingle. In here, this really needs to be a quarter. So before I go through this duplication, I'm just going to change that. I'm going to make sure this is still correct. Good. All right, great. What is this? 8 inch. I did do it as 8 inches. Yeah. I just made myself go a little crazy though, because I was like, oh, it's not asphalt shingle, it's metal roof. It's because I just made this out of the same roof family and then I put the metal pieces on top of it. Silly me. And then I painted everything else to look like shingle instead of actually changing it in the floor or space itself. So see here, we're having the floor intersect our windows. Yeah, we're gonna do something different here, I think, to fix that. I'm gonna go back to the second floor. I'm gonna go back to roof. I'm on the 8-inch shingle. I'm editing type. Hopefully now, because I'm in a new one, it won't change it. So I'll just do ceiling and see if that changed anything. All right, right here. So this is the original, and this is the ceiling one. Perfect. 8-inch ceiling. So what we're gonna want to do is we're gonna want to remove that asphalt shingle layer because we don't need that. I don't know if that even saved. We don't need this. So I'm actually going to move it down though because I want it to be gyp on the inside, which is 1/2 inch. I'm going to rename this. I guess I'll just do gypsum, gyp ceiling board. I will do that. That's fine. And then I'll insert another layer. This is the strapping layer. Wood strapping is literally just like pieces of thin wood that they put the ceiling, nail the gyp to, instead of the floorboards. So that is also 3/4 inch. So that's good. I'm going to move this so that it falls exactly where I want it to fall. This is a 9, this is a 9. For some reason this looks thicker. Oh, it's not being cut through. I think that's the issue right now. Yeah. So I move this. Just moving it blindly. Let me go to my first floor plan here. Okay, so I do want it to just be here. I gotta move my section cut. I'm also going to get rid of this because I don't need it on that side. And I'm going to bring it to the middle. Let's see what this looks like. So the middle of this is, I need to draw the midpoint. But for now. I'm going to move my section cut. Go back to the section. Okay. And then again, this is going to be exactly how you would do a top plate. I'm going to delete my reference lines, which are just detail lines. I use detail lines as reference lines. There are actually things in Revit called reference lines, but I use detail lines as reference lines. So let me copy these 2D pieces, and I'm going to just change the size to be the correct size for this wall. And then I'm going to make sure that this is hitting at the corner. And then I need to extend it a little bit over, but I also don't want it to peek through the top. So we'll see if we can do that by just going a little bit over. I did move this. What I have to do is do a detail line so that I have an intersection point to select when I move it down. And really, let's just take a measurement. So from here to here, if I do tab, it should give me like a dot for an intersection point. It's not doing that. So I'm gonna select this. I'm gonna move it 3 inches, see what that does. Kept it at the corner this time. All right. So I'm gonna undo it actually, because I think, yeah, this will probably actually work. So I'm gonna go in detail lines now, and I'm gonna take a solid line and I'm just gonna draw in trying to figure out here. Okay, so I need to do the cut profile here to extend this out. Okay, and if I do a detail line here, and then I offset that detail line, which is OF, the 3/4 for the strapping. So I'm not building in the strapping in the ceiling for this roof because up here I wouldn't need it. So it's easier for me to just draw in detail lines, those 2 elements. What I could also do is I could build a ceiling and put that in there, but I also don't know if that's super necessary. I will do it though for the sake of this tutorial, because I am inclined to just do detail lines because it's easier, but I want to show you the other option of actually building a ceiling. So I'm going to delete the detail lines. This is just one way you could do it again, and I'm going to go in and actually create the ceiling, because I'm going to host lights to it, and if I want to host 3D lights to it, I'm going to need actual ceiling built to do that. If I didn't want to host lights to it, I would have just done the detail lines and I would have called it a day. That's how I choose. Am I going to model something, or is it easier just to plop in some detail lines? At the end of the day, it's all about what you're actually trying to achieve. There's so many different ceilings. So this is a 5/8. Let's just make it 1/2 inch. And that's great. I'm going to build in the strapping layer because it's easier to do it all in one layer, or all in one piece, I should say. So it's saying automatic sealing, sketch sealing. It'll only do an automatic sealing if it's like for a room or something like that. So I'm just gonna do that for now. Edit boundary. No, I just closed out of that view, but it's fine. And then we want to give this side a slope. Define slope. And we're going to change this to a 9. So sometimes there's like little things you can check off up here. This is one of those moments. Section. Let's move this down. All right, so because I built in that 3/4 space, I know that I can just move this there. This is not in the right spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this down again, and then I'm going to pin it because it just keeps moving. I don't think there's any way this wouldn't be the middle. Perfect. Okay, where these two things intersect is the middle, which is what I wanted. So I'm going to actually join this to this, and it's going to clean it up. Let's see if I join this to this. It doesn't clean it up as nicely. All right. But I can go here now, and I can bring this into that corner. Gonna have to just bring it up again. But there we go, and then I can go to cut profile and just fix this to extend here. I'm gonna unjoin the geometry. That just made all my roofs unjoined, so hold on. I'm going to, instead of joining this, I'm going to undo this, and I'm going to use the cut profile tool to just extend the profiles out without actually extending the model out. And then I'm going to edit this to become 1 3/8 backwards. 1 3/8 of an inch that way. I must have done a foot by accident. 1 inch. And then 3/8 of an inch. There we go. Perfect. Perfect. All right, and then I'm just gonna move this a little bit so it's there. Whoops, I want that to be accurate. So this is why I'm in thin lines again. And then that looks good. I probably would just edit this to be here. As well as editing this one to also meet at that middle point, because there will be a piece of wood in this center, just like there'd be a piece of wood in this center connecting those two pieces. So that is that. Looks like I made this profile a little slanted, so I'm just gonna make sure that's correct by aligning it to this angle. Perfect. Perfect. It's exactly what it needs to look like. I'm gonna pin this baby in place. I'm gonna pin this ceiling in place. And now we have our faux cathedral ceiling on the inside. And now it leaves it up to, like, what do we do with this area? Do we just build a wall here, call it a day? You know what I mean? What do we do? So, what do we do? We'll have to figure it out together. But I'm looking into, like, if this isn't an unfinished space, what can this space actually be? And is it possible to do something with this, or do I just put a wall up? I feel like this floor needs to go here, but then I'm not sure what that looks like in section. It's a little bit weird. I guess it could alternate, like 16 inches on center, 16 inches on center, in front and behind each other. And then we could copy and paste this upstairs to the second level. Attach this to the roof. So then that's kind of walled off. And then this space just opens because of the dormer. And this just becomes like attic space. So then this is all like finished space. If this was an unfinished upstairs, you wouldn't need this wall. It would just be these exposed rafters. But where this is going to be a finished space, I'm going to have it be like that. I'm also going to just take away this top sheathing layer because we don't need that. Line is too short. Delete. I don't know why I keep saying the line is too short. Delete element. When I delete that. Delete. Delete. I don't know why removing that layer caused my cup profile to kind of become janked up. Okay, I guess I just needed to like redo it or something. But I wasn't sure if there was a way to like create something out of this that's livable in the space, but this isn't really like a structural thing that you can put. I imagine you probably shouldn't put a ton of weight on it. So I'm just gonna block it off. And because it's gonna be blocked off, it doesn't need a top layer of sheathing on it. Even if it was unfinished and this wall wasn't here, you still wouldn't need that sheathing. You'd really only need that if you were gonna put like a finish on it, like drywall, which I was considering. Like, I don't know, maybe possibly you could utilize this in this space as a finished space, but I think it would just probably be more awkward than anything. So kind of just nixing that idea and just going a little bit standard in like blocking off this area. Alright, so that looks like it's been resolved. I don't know why this line is showing up and sometimes not showing up. But that's fine. Everything is fine. Pinning that in place. Again, this is what our 3D is looking like. This is what our section's looking like. And now I want to do a section box in this area to really explore the shape that I've just created on the interior of this space. Cute. Alright, so we can see this doesn't exactly match up. Which bothers me in 3D because I like to do 3D views and you can see it because we only did like a cut profile in the other one. So maybe if I just like extend this out. Teensy bit. I think I did it. I think I nailed it. No. I didn't nail it. Because now it's outside. Oh, just kidding. That's cut profile. I did nail it. I did nail it. Now I can get rid of the cut profile. Alright. I wonder if I just join these, if it will get rid of that overlap, or if I have to adjust the, yeah. I need to adjust this so that it is actually perfect. So I'm going to need to move that 1/8 of an inch. I was so close. But now it'll be perfectly modeled and I won't need the cut tools. I would have just left it with the cut faces. Again, it's one of those situations where it's like I could have just left it, but because I want to take that 3D view specifically, I want it to be modeled in 3D and not have that gap there. So I don't know why this still wasn't enough. Like, literally gonna go like tiny, and I don't even know. I'm such a perfectionist. Sometimes it's like, you don't need to be that perfect. You don't need to make it 100,000% accurate, Melissa. Like, you'll be fine. But I'm like, no, I want it to be perfect. I want it to be perfect. Perfect. Distance 5 1/28. Yes, I'm about to move this 5 1/28. Now it's off by a little bit, but that's okay. Because you know what? it's perfectly where it needs to be, kind of. I just got so close. Pin, pin, nobody move. Perfect. No cut profiles. It's modeled perfectly. Now we go to our 3D view. There's no gap there. It looks beautiful. And now it was worth it because I wanted to be able to look up, not see a gap in my ceiling. If I wasn't doing a 3D view, if I wasn't hosting lights, I would have just done detail lines in a lot of this scenario. I'm accurately modeling this to the 1/28 of an inch because this 3D view is going to be one of my money shots. I want a 3D view of this kitchen with this drop ceiling and like from the inside and then opening up again on the other side. Like I want that view. So I'm going to model it to get that view accurately. Is it 100% necessary for every single project? No. Is it necessary for what I want to do and achieve for this project? Yes. So being able to discern when you need to model something and when you don't need to model something is going to be key in your productivity, your workflow. Like just being able to discern when you need a model and when you could just do a detail line is very important. This whole scenario of doing the interior space with this interior cathedral and everything that we just worked through, the cut profiles, you know, seeing how we could draw in the lines for the ceiling, but then choosing to model that, choosing to do the cut profile to extend this piece out, how that looks in 3D, why I then would make sure this piece is exactly, you know, modeled to that center point without doing the cut profile so that there's no gap in the 3D view. That's because I want to do an interior rendering shot like I mentioned. So figuring out what you want out of the space and then moving forward from that. So it's looking cute. I'm going to go to the second floor plan and I'm just going to, this wall has just been duplicated, so I'm just going to wall off this area around here where I know the opening is. And then I'm going to go to the 3D view and I'm just going to hold this little endpoint, shift and drag it over. I'm going to then attach this to the roof, and now this whole space has been created. I think I want to create some kind of cathedral within this volume, but I'm not exactly sure. I might just like extend this back and see how that looks, and then build out the space in between. It might have to be two different pieces, but I might just start out with extruding this back to see how it looks, and then breaking it up into two different pieces, like two different roof model pieces. But I'm definitely going to be exploring something here to make these windows bigger and to utilize this space. But this is how we just built that out in 3D and created the volume of the shape together. This is going to be a vaulted ceiling that we're also going to create in here. That's going to be fun. So I used to have a little cased opening here, but I think it got deleted. It does look like it got deleted. So I'm just gonna do, I think it's under my components, cased opening. Oh, I think I wanted the arch cased opening. And then go back to 3D. Bam! Oh yeah, I wanted to do like a ceiling kind of extruded out this way. How tall are these doors? 7 feet. Let's make them 6'8". 7 is like a commercial number. It's too tall for a house. Okay. So, yeah, I'm interested in making a vaulted space in here, but not sure if it would make it feel too small. We'll see. We'll just pull this back into the kitchen. And there we go. Looking cute. Looking cute. Looking so cute, so cute, so cute. Now we have our little cathedral ceiling in our kitchen. But then the floor drops in. I love that. I love that so much. Well, I'm really excited with how this project has been shaping up, how the exterior is looking, how the interior is now looking, and I'm really excited to continue this. We will keep going and working on the other interior spaces next time. What I'm going to do really quickly before we sign off is I'm going to throw in a ground floor plane right now. And I'm just going to, I think I just clicked on roofs. Yeah, let me do a floor. I'm just going to do pavement. I already have it kind of preset, and it's just a literal floor slab. And then I'm going to do the outside boundary of these walls because I don't want it to interfere with the actual floor of the house. I want this pad I'm about to make out of the floor, the pavement, so to speak, be cutting out around the house. So I'm just doing this really quickly because I don't want the house to feel like it's floating anymore, especially because I added in the floor plates this time. So that is really, really dark. So I'm just going to change this to be not so harsh. Perfect, but yeah, I think that's fine. And then we'll just make you go -8 inches because there's always 8 inches of the foundation floor showing just a little bit. And I'm not going to model a foundation for this project. I think the floor slab here is giving the illusion, and this is also giving that illusion, so that is good enough for me for right now. But that's where we're at. The interior is coming together, the exterior is coming together, and we are almost wrapped up with this session. So this was our 5th call or 5th live working on this project, and I'd say we're pretty darn close to being done. So next time I'm gonna figure out this backspace, if we're gonna do a cathedral, and then how to get stairs going upstairs with the cathedral, how we can figure that out. And then the 7th call, so that will probably be the 6th call, figuring out this space call. 5th live is what we're on now. The 6th live, which will be next week, we'll probably work out this backspace, how to get this area to work, what to do with the ceiling, how to get the stairs to go up with also working with the cathedral here, just exploring what to do in that aspect. And then I keep saying call, Live 7, the week after that, we'll probably start to explore what we could do in the ceiling here, whether it's vaulted or whether it's another cathedral or whether we just put in a flat ceiling. And then the 8th live will be putting our views on sheets and doing some slight documentation. Slight dimensioning, labels for rooms, very, very minimal information, but just to go over like, okay, this is finished, this is the sheets I'm putting them on, this is some of the information I want to convey, and then the project will be done. That'll be our 8th call. I'm hoping to be able to do a house in 8 lives. So every 8 weeks, we're starting a new floor plan together. It will depend on how big the house is. This is a pretty small project. Some of the larger floor plans and larger projects will probably take more weeks, more lives. So we'll just play it by ear, but I'm really happy with how this is progressing. I wish there was like a way for me to showcase the inside right now, but there's not. So I'll probably create like a separate post or series of images that shows off the interior spaces that we're creating, because the whole point of actually modeling those elements in 3D in the cathedral area in the kitchen is to be able to take that 3D view. Otherwise, like I said, I would have just drew it in with detail lines and called it a day. Because if I didn't need to see the interior in 3D, it didn't need to be 100% accurate the way that I just modeled that. So I'm definitely going to get some 3D interior views in Revit set up for this project at the end as well and put those on those sheets, and that'll probably be in that 8th week. And we're in week 5 right now. So just a little bit of how I think the timeline of the project's going to move forward every week that we do the lives, and what you can sort of expect moving forward, how far I'm going to take the project. But like I just said, I'm going to get it on sheets. I'm going to have some 3D views set up. I'm going to have all the standard views set up. And I'm going to have some slight documentation associated with that in terms of dimensioning, tagging things, labels for rooms. So it will be literally like from start importing the CAD file for my base plan to finishing like a minimally detailed set for this house. So I'm so excited. And when it's done, like hopefully one day we'll be able to get Lumion, and then you'll see this beautiful rendering project on our website available for purchase as a stock plan, which is also super exciting. So I love doing these lives, and I will talk to you guys next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know where to find me. Instagram at Architecture Unbound, YouTube. All the replays are in a nice little playlist for you to watch. Go back and start at the beginning if you haven't, and you'll see the development and the design of this project from the first call, first live, to today. All right. I can't wait to see how we take things and make it even better next week.